I had this client who was buying equipment from me because he had this suddenly very successful architecture business, and he had all kinds of money, and that was great. But he was always lamenting how he had so much architecture he couldn't find time for music. And I said something just to get a laugh, like, "Oh, actually, I have the opposite problem. So much music, I got no time for architecture."
Otherwise, hey, what's up? Welcome to Space Couch. How are you? I'm just gonna do a little space maintenance right here. We like to do that at the top of the show so we don't die by the end of the show. Uh, just for those of you that are here for Space Jam, this is Space Couch. It's a whole different thing. We invite you to stay. You'll probably have a better time. DJ D42 in the chat room today. So great to see all of you out here in the cosmic vastness of space and emptiness and the voluminous vacuum we call the outer reaches. Oh, we have the red side, friend of the show here. It's going to be special, super fantastic. Not only because of the guest, but because of the sponsor. We have this week brand new. Check it out. This episode sponsored by Tiger Squawk Records. You want to check out all the new offerings, including 2 from Amalgamated Cadaver. That's me and Deathly. Club Ovator's Tanzlator is out. It is a powerhouse. Delirious, covered by the Gossicles, one of my all-time favorite Prince songs. Batavia's single, As a Fran. I hope I'm saying that right because the song is amazing. 3 releases from new signing Sega Lugosi. Pixelized from Ghost Proxy. It is so smooth and deadly. Varsity Gore from The Unstoppable Israeli. Guess what? It's amazing. Eternal Merch Grill from Elias Synesthesia. It's incredible. Animal Addendum, very apropos to this episode, one remix in particular. You want to check out Mythos from Batavia. It's their debut. It's going to be amazing. Or full length, I mean. And check this out. Special for Space Couch. We want to drop the trailer, I guess you'd call it, for the upcoming Squawk Jams album we're putting out. This is a Jock Jams tribute album that we covered because it rhymes with squawk. So check this out.
From the intergalactic heavyweight champions of the world, Tiger Squawk Records, comes a brand new compilation. Squawk Jams. Fresh as otter's breath. Harder than punch out with a power glove. Squawk Jams. Tiger Squawk Records dunks on the competition.
Okay, so that comes out July 23rd, 2021. It's we worked really hard on it, and we made it happen because Ed from Batavia made a pun in our artist group. I want to show off. I don't know if you can see them, but I want to show off my Tiger Squawk socks. And cool. That is everything going on with our sponsor. I want to turn focus now to our amazing guest. We are having an all-star week here on Space Couch. We had the Boundless come back and just tear it up last week. This week, we've got one of the most intriguing, amazing, wonderful guests we've had on the show make his return. Let's just get into it because it's going to be amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dummy Plug Conspiracy. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. Get to talk to Dummy Plug Conspiracy. Get to just sort of relax out here in cosmic oblivion. And when I want to communicate, I get to talk to wonderful electronic musicians such as yourself. And thank you for finding the time to do so because you have been busy, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I leveraged my way on. Let's face it. I wanted to come back. I think you do a good job. I think when you find people who are really good at this kind of stuff, you should engage with them as often as possible. So,
well, fantastic.
Ryan,
and until you find that person, you are welcome back on Space Couch. So let's start here because I'm a Noise fan. We've got a new project, new to my ears anyway, correct me if I'm wrong. Parasitic Twin Disposal Unit. Tell me about this.
Sure. First time ever working under a moniker. I wanted this to kind of be a standalone thing. So I kind of just put Dummy Plug Conspiracy Presents.
Hey, look at that.
And that was pretty much the only mention of Dummy Plug Conspiracy on here because I wanted it to stand alone. And, it was one of those things where I suppose I came up with the name first and then backfilled the idea from there. But, I've been talking about doing a noise record for a very long time and finally had a chance to do it. My family was out of town for 3 weeks. I had to stay home because I was working. And this is the kind of music that's best created in an empty house.
That is such a good description. There's something I don't know, voluminous, if you will, about creating noise, to me anyway. But let's take a listen. I will issue our first ever content warning here on Space Couch. In the grand tradition of gnarly noise album covers, this one's pretty gnarly. if you are a little squeamish, you may want to sort of do that thing where you kind of look through your fingers. So here we'll take a look at and hear the dulcet tones of Parasitic Twin Disposal. Okay, so that was some of the sonic suplexing going on with Parasitic Twin Disposal Unit. Tell us about, how would you describe this you sonically, and we like to get a little woo-woo. How would you get it emotionally? Where would you put this sort of in your pantheon?
Well, I mean, a recurring theme lately has been kind of taking myself out of it. I put a lot of effort into my personal brand, and since I do all my own graphic design and obviously write all my own stuff, and there's nobody really telling me no, that can be a little dangerous. I guess this record is the fallout from being able to make all my own decisions. But I'd always wanted to do a noise record, and I didn't want it to just be a noise record. I didn't know what it was going to sound like. I had no starting point. I had no, everybody thinks they can stroll into the studio and just do a noise record. Right. Be like, hey, this is easy. Let's, Right. And I found out a couple of really important things. It is way easier to make mediocre dance music than it is to make good noise. I can't even, I think anybody who produces any kind of music should do at least one noise album, because you're going to learn a lot and you're going to unlearn a lot.
That is such a good call. Holy shit.
The perspective you gain is just amazing. So I knew that I wanted to have this done within a 3-week period of sort of intensive work. So I made myself certain rules. Rule number 1 was there would be no sampling on this album of any sort, period.
What is that?
And there is none. No sound is sampled because no sound has ever existed before. It's all 100%, created sound.
Love it.
Second, the album's called No Gods, No Mastering, which is
so funny.
If you're familiar with the expression, no gods, no masters, that's an old anarchist slogan that I liked the slogan, and that was the other rule, is there was going to be no mastering. Whatever came out of my DAW was going to have to be it. Because the idea of taking something like this, this monolithic thing I was trying to do that was going to be very genuine, the idea of then sweetening it was like, why would you do that? That's like completely the antithesis of what you're trying to do. So so that was the other deal I made with myself, no mastering. And then after that, I just sort of approached it like, what would I want to hear? What kind of sounds have I not heard before? What do I think I have in terms of resources here that I can, abuse? And so one of the tracks is very much a minimal, kind of weird electronic track, very minimal. I knew I wanted to do that. One of the songs is entirely power tools.
Oh, wow.
I was out in my driveway with microphones,
nice.
Running miter saws and things like that. My neighbors think I'm insane, of course, but it was worth it. I always wanted to do a prepared piano track, so I had big pieces of aluminum soffit that I was shoving in my actual piano, which is a scary thing to do because my piano's kind of expensive. I don't want to ruin it or something. And there's things made of felt and wood in there. It's not like you can just go yoink and
right. You're circumventing your own.
Okay, so that track I think came out quite well. And And then, there's some very much just modular synth. There's some total harsh noise. There's, frankly, more variety than I ever thought there would be. It would have been very easy for me to come in here and remake a Merzbow record or remake, an Incapacitance record or a whatever, a Hanatarashi record. And that's not what I wanted to do. And I don't think it would have sounded genuine coming from me anyway, because that's just not the kind of artist I am. And I couldn't have done it even if I'd wanted to. I used to record with this guy a long time ago named Kevin Murray, who's a really talented, really great synth pop musician, just so dialed into that sound. He's so good at it. And we used to record stuff, and he'd be like, I really want this to sound kind of like how OMD would do it. And I was like, no, I don't want it to sound like how anybody else is going to do it. And he'd remind me, he'd be like, yeah, but we're not actually going to get it the way OMD would do it. So don't worry. We're going to fall short of that. And wherever we land, that's our sound.
Cool.
And I was like, well, that's really smart. So, if you give yourself that latitude, you can kind of do whatever you want, knowing that it's still going to kind of sound like you, unless you go into it saying, I don't want this to sound anything like me, which I just would never do. So
this album wasn't you just like turning on machines and kind of seeing what came out. You had you were throwing out some scaffolding, it sounds like I have sort of a mental plan of where this wants to go, or is that not accurate?
No, it's true. In a lot of cases, I didn't know what that trajectory was going to be on day one, but it became pretty apparent once I got my hands dirty. And and again, that was the other misconception that I had, is I thought these were going to be, okay, Monday I'm going to do track 1, Tuesday I'm going to do track 2, I'll be done by Tuesday next week, and I'll just watch Blu-rays until my family gets home. And it's no. No, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get far enough out of your zone. Whether that just means a lot of processing, or that just means completely throwing things away. Or I spent hours on this one really cool sound on one of the songs, and then I wound up mixing it purposely so quiet that you almost can't even hear it.
Yeah, that's about how it goes.
If you listen to that song with like your refrigerator running, you're not even going to hear all those hours of work. But it wound up being right for that song. Okay. And I stepped back from it when it was done, really proud of myself for having, been able to relinquish that control and turn that labor over to the process. And I'm proud of the whole record for that reason, I guess, because it wasn't easy, and I think it really turned out cool. Like, I actually listened to it, I fly a lot, and I can listen to this beginning to end on a plane. I think it's a hell of a...
Yeah, that was my next question, is how do you feel about the end product? But it sounds like we got to... Yeah. No, I love it. The plane is a good call, now that we can do that again. It's really great. Like, not even... because you're the guest or whatever, like, this is just a completely honest endorsement from here on Couch. It's
thank you.
We picked that up
I think people that have never heard this stuff before, it's very tough to tell somebody what should be that introductory record if you want to check out some noise stuff, because there's a lot of different kinds, and in fairness, you don't want to just immediately say check out Merzbow, because even then you could pick one of his records that was not really typical of his output or whatever. And I feel like, at least, if nothing else, I know that this is well-rounded and it's pretty representative of the genre, but also pretty representative of what I bring to it. I don't think there's anything I didn't get to do. I came away from it very sure that the 8 tracks on this record were the 8 tracks I had in me, and the 8 tracks necessary to do the job. And that was enough for me. And I came away from it thinking it was my strongest material ever.
Awesome, man. Well, that is high praise from you, because so much of your material is so strong. But it's interesting to always see what artists think the best of their own material is. We get that on Bandcamp?
Yeah, it's on Bandcamp, and I think my record label, American Electronic Records, Christian D, I'm pretty sure he put it on Spotify and Apple, whatever Apple is.
Okay, great.
Whatever that is.
iTunes?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
Well, big ups.
Despite being a dyed-in-the-wool Mac guy, I don't even have that app to go get it, so I don't really know how that world works, but Yeah.
You pick it up somewhere through the wonderful AER. Well, we'll not stop there because we'll not, not just one new Dummy Plug Conspiracy album. We are consolidating the first 30 years.
Yeah.
Out now, the best of Dummy Plug Conspiracy called The First 30 Years with new track Hardcore.
Oh, no.
No, I screwed up. I screwed it up. Sorry about that.
The newest one on here is called "My Metal Friends Aren't Proud of Me."
Mm-hmm.
That is quite new, but Hardcore was great. Too bad you missed it is even newer, and that wound up being the last track of my Nearly Canadian album, which I now consider closed.
Okay, so Nearly Canadian out.
They're both
with a new track on it. Okay, and so we have. So I'm talking about two albums now. Let's focus on the first 30 years. What's it like to compile your own best of album? Like, were there any just on the line?
It's a weird thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's another experience of taking yourself out of it. I thought about this a bit before I did it because this was not my idea. This was Christian D. He's really dialed into what people will buy.
Okay.
Not that we're trying to make money on this, but he knows, like, if you want to get people to hear your songs, how do you package them? What do you give them? And he suggested that this was a good idea, seeing as, I really legitimately do have 30 years of material. So when you think about best of records and how they come to be, there's really two things that typically happen. A band back in the day would often sign a 5-record contract with a label. And this is back when there was such thing as artist development. And these guys would do record number 1, record number 2, and then finally by record number 3, they'd be good. And they'd be getting popularity. And that would be about the time they realized that they were in a really shitty deal.
Right.
So they'd be like, oh my God, we're about to record our best record ever because we're good now. How do we get away from this record company that we hate so much? And what they would typically do to fulfill a 5-record contract is come out with a live album and a best of. Boom, 5 records, bye.
All right.
So there's a lot of disingenuous, best ofs that are still legit and some of the highest selling records of all time. But that's and then the other way it could happen, of course, is that long after they departed the label, or maybe still stayed with them, the record label themselves would be like, it's time to release a best of for the money and for no other reason. And that's where all the rest of them came from. So since I didn't have either of those things pushing this, I had to figure out, like, what would a person who wasn't me want on this record? Because you know how this is. There's certain songs that you love for reasons that a lay person or a casual listener would never understand or identify. And there's songs that you hate for reasons that a casual listener would never identify. And you have to put that stuff away. Like that doesn't help you compile a record like this. So by the time I was done, I thought about the crowd pleasers from, the few times I played them live and the ones that I just, had a good feeling about or that I thought were clever. And, it kind of builds itself at that point. But I mean, the joke here is I called the record The First 30 Years. And if anybody gets that reference, Black Flag put out a landmark record called The First 4 Years. And I guess the joke on me is sort of, it took Black Flag 4 years to become one of the most celebrated American bands of all time. It took me 30 to become barely relevant. And so I guess whatever you make of that, but there's some really kick-ass songs on here.
There are.
I can honestly say you're not going to get a compilation like this anywhere else, certainly not in America. It's cool. It came out cool.
Yeah, I've got some vinyl from AER myself. They make a quality, or whoever does the pressing makes a quality product. I just sort of glanced over it just now, but physical media. You have these on vinyl and CD. Where do you see physical media fitting in 2021?
Well, with the Noise record, a lot of people probably already know this, but the Noise scene is very much a cassette scene. Cassette has this nicely democratizing, kind of classic music trading ethos around. And you'll get a lot of the really great noise records on cassette. In fact, if you go on eBay and look for highly collectible noise records, they'll invariably be on cassette. So as much as I wanted to do that, I still couldn't quite get myself to do it. And I certainly didn't want to suggest that Christian go and print them up for me either, because I didn't really know what was going to happen. The thing about CD is this still allows me to stroll into a record store and give it to them to sell, or to just take, or to tell somebody, you got to hear this, or because remember, I travel for work, so I'm all over the country. I get to go to small markets. On tomorrow, I fly to Lubbock and Amarillo.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, which is like there's some kid in Lubbock or Amarillo who's never heard anything like this before, and I'm gonna drop this thing somewhere. I'm gonna put it on the window ledge of the Taco Bell or some stupid thing, and that kid's life is gonna change. And I'm being very optimistic here, but I wish somebody had done that for me.
Yeah, that'd be great, right?
Yeah, so, I got 100 of these things, and they're going out into the world. And, of course, you can buy one if you prefer physical media, and we'll see what happens.
I want to give a shout-out to my Uncle Ed, who just said hi. Hi, Uncle Ed. And if you are in the Lubbock area, keep your eyes peeled and your industrial radar raised for wonderful dummy plug conspiracy leavables. Well, cool, man. I will fully admit to being a vinyl guy. It sounds better to me. I don't care. It sounds better to me. So I will definitely recommend you pick this up on vinyl. But, if you're a digital guy, like anybody is.
That's that too.
We got that too. And although you can pick them up on vinyl, I don't know if you have to keep all those boxes in your house there, Chris. But
yeah, we're on a limited edition short run basis. So nobody's stepping over boxes of vinyl right now.
Okay, all right. Not that I don't know what that's like or anything like that. Well, I guess that's as good as an input as any. Speaking of myself, I am shooting gratitude out of every orifice in my body that you were good enough to, you're right, do a dummy plug conspiracy remix with your limited time frame on the new Animal Addendum Gothsicles album, out now for pay what you want at thegothsicles.bandcamp.com. Let's take a listen to that, and then we'll do Don't Let Me Not Play Hardcore. But we'll do Stag Beetle right now.
Awesome.
Space Controls. So that was the exceptionally pummeling remix of Stag Beetle Professional Wrestling. It drops you off the top turnbuckle. I get really into the process of remixing is always fascinating to me. Like, did you sort of start to formulate this in your mind as soon as you heard it, or was it a process of like grabbing onto a little part of a kit or something like that?
Well, I don't do a lot of these, so it was hard to remember what was expected. And the whole thing is a little bit odd. Conceptually, you figure that a person has asked you to do this remix because they like your sound and want to see your sound imparted on their sound. Well, so there's an obligation to turn in something that kind of does that, right? I wasn't gonna veer too far from that thing I'm known for.
Right.
Then, I think the thing that's gonna grab you about Gothsicles material is your voice. I mean, no question that's the first thing that really
Right.
impacts. So, okay, I knew I was going to do this distorted kick drum. I knew I was going to distort lots of other stuff and gabber it up and make it, like crazy. And that was kind of a given. I've noticed that your vocals uh, give you no place to hide. Like you're very forward, and it's fun and it's kooky, and there's no hiding behind anything with your vocals. And I thought that perhaps my job in this was to give you some place to hide uh, when processing, not just when processing your vocal, but the way I kind of arranged it, and make you more part of the fabric, and see if
Fascinating.
that worked. And I tweaked it here and there to make it a good balance, but I think I did that. And then I also,
Yeah.
knowing I was going to make it really aggressive, I told myself early on, you got to do something goofy to offset that, and still kind of retain the fun. So I threw in that rave piano.
Yeah, you
I
did.
haven't done a rave piano since 1992, and I was like, yeah, man, this plays. I like this. And
Hell, yeah. I was
how'd
just
that go?
over the moon. The get everybody check that out at thegothsicles.bandcamp.com. Dummy plug conspiracy on the show today. Just slaying left and right. Not only in the yes, I was gonna say like that's an interesting approach to remixing because you changed the role or the class of the vocals. Like you changed them from like a fighter to a wizard. Like they have a completely different function in the group now. Everything D&D, Brian, really? Yeah, kind of. The recorded world is all well and good, but you have been slaying dragons live. Let's talk a little bit about what I will call the first live show. You had one, a solo one earlier that looks straight out of Gabatron. It's just awesome. Let's take a look at this first live show clip, which I put right here.
I had this client who was buying equipment from me because he had this suddenly very successful architecture business, and he had all kinds of money, and that was great. But he was always lamenting how he had so much architecture he couldn't find time for music. And I said something just to get a laugh, like, "Oh, actually, I have the opposite problem. So much music, I got no time for architecture."
All right, so that looked, I'll just say it again, gnarly.
Thank you.
Tell us about that epic improv. We're not improv. We'll get into that, but
Yeah.
tell us about this one, the amazing visuals and all there involved.
Yeah, I guess my plan. I had done a live stream summer last year that was really just kind of techno, getting my feet wet, experimenting with some loops and things, and it was great. And I think it was a lot of fun. And I was like, okay, so clearly we can do this again now. And then I started getting ambitious, which this got much bigger than I ever expected.
Yeah,
it to.
that happens.
It wound up being, and it was all me. It's 100% me. I had no external help of any sort with this. So I started getting, pretty involved in the technology, which I do this stuff for a living anyway. So I had access to all the tools I needed, but I performed out by my pool. That's all
Nice.
on my lanai behind my house
Oh,
here.
cool.
And it was a 3-camera shoot. and I was using a mix of HDMI and NDI and some USB sources and devices. I actually
Wow.
got very involved with the venerable Akai APC-40 Mark II. I actually own two of them now. There's one up here as well. So I was doing my audio stuff with my right hand and my video stuff with my left hand,
Wow.
each using an Akai. Because the video stuff, I don't know if you can really tell from that clip, but I'm doing all of the video effect stuff live. I'm triggering the videos and doing the effects and stuff.
Isn't that
with
like
the faders
rubbing your
and
tummy and
nodules.
patting your head at the same time? Like that's pretty cool, man.
Well, a lot of it kind of makes sense. I put it in such a way that I was, everything was sort of logically arranged, but I had to find all the content and tweak all the content and produce a lot of it to kind of fit. And then there's some really neat things you can do with synchronization, network synchronization. You can synchronize Ableton against Resolume Arena, which was a software platform I used for all the video stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They'll both see each other on the network and automatically sync one to the other. So if you have a time-based video effect, it'll respond just like a MIDI sync delay or something would. And there's some really interesting possibilities now once you could do that. So I basically had to stand up a network on my lanai and still run a 300-foot, tactical grade Cat 6A back into my office. So I had a hardline, network output since I'm streaming all this. And I was controlling 3 cameras with a PTZ controller. You couldn't see that stuff. It's all down by my feet.
Wow. You built a
had
Mac, dude. You built a Mac.
Yeah, I mean, I basically did. I had a projection, and that's a 188-inch screen that, I stood in front of it, and just even getting the lighting right, which there wasn't really much lighting, but just finding a way that you could see me, you could see what I was doing, you could see the screen without the light washing out the screen and still not blinding me while I'm trying to frickin' play.
Yeah.
There was a lot of nuance there.
Yeah.
So it took a bunch of practice, and of course, when the day finally came, I had said something in the invitation, like, weather permitting, and I was talking about rain, because obviously I can't do it if it's raining.
And
I had I had a
in
1965
Tampa.
Fender Jaguar out there with me. I'm not doing that if it's raining. What ended up happening, not rain, luckily, but it was the coldest night of the year, and all I can say is I hope everybody will watch this beginning to end. Please, if you do nothing else for me your whole life, please watch that stream beginning to end. I really am I'm not just proud of it, but I think there's stuff in there that you're gonna just engage with, because I think it worked. And I'd be the first one to tell you if it didn't, okay? Trust me. If it crashed and burned, I'd be telling you the horror story right now. The one part that didn't work out is I tried to play slap bass when I couldn't feel my hands, and the bass was already covered in freezing dew.
Torture.
And it just and I'm thinking, okay, I can get through it as long as I do things synchronized. Even if I miss the notes, I can do it. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't feel anything.
Man.
You can't get it right. And that was the one thing that tanked. Everything else, I think, went really well.
So yeah, you can only endure so much stabbing physical pain during the live show. That's incredible.
Numbness.
We go to YouTube and look for Dummy Plug Conspiracy. Yep. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
That's where it's archived. Yeah.
Everybody check that out. It's
I call
awesome.
It live stream number 2, Electric Boogaloo, making a reference to Breakin' 2.
Well, yes. Well, that movie is by canon, but you fire a sonic arm cannon, much like Cyborg of the Justice League. Am I still talking?
If I can get Golan Globus to produce my next live stream, I'm in.
You got it.
Nothing would make me happier than having Menachem Golan show up with a topless chick to run around in front of my live stream for absolutely no reason, like he did in all of his movies.
Yeah, we'll get Chuck Norris and Chuck Bronson to show up in the background. It'll be great.
Be fun, man.
Oh my, yeah. You heard it here first. We're going to do a canon-themed Dummy Plug Conspiracy show.
Delta Force 3, Dummy Plug Conspiracy in Tampa.
Oh, yeah. Just American Ninja 6 all over the place.
Definitely.
Well, speaking of sequels, not one to stop at Electric Boogaloo. We went to Breakin' 3, and much like The Rock was added in the fifth Fast and Furious, we added Powerhouse the Red Side to your live set. Set this up for us. We'll take a look in a second. What are we going to see?
I mean, I've known Christian for 20-something years, and our funny story is that we grew up in the same town, and I never met him until years later when we worked together in Boston, which is just crazy.
It happens, man.
Yeah, it does. And he's so good at this stuff because he does it all the time. Like, he does live streams and plays live with people constantly. And I've been, out of the mix for ages. So he was coming down to visit, which I was stoked. He brought his son. It was going to be great. Couldn't wait. And he was like, we should do this. And I was like, yeah, we totally should. But I'm going to disappoint you, bro, because I don't know how to do this anymore. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. We're going to be fine.
Time out. And by this, you mean live electronic improv?
A live electronic improv.
Cool,
now, I had built my little live lounge. Last time you interviewed me, I was over there, which is my proper production rig. This is my live lounge where I have all my live stuff. And I had been working on making a workflow that lent itself to improv, which is not super duper easy to do when you're in the software domain, which, I unfortunately, my life just doesn't permit me to own 1,000 physical devices anymore. So how do you create a workflow that kind of replicates that? So originally what I wanted to do was buy an aftermarket infrared touchscreen frame so that I could have 20-point touch and actually bring up like a TR-909 drum machine plug-in and actually hit the buttons on the screen just like it was actually sitting there.
Wow.
And after a couple swings and misses, I even tried a virtual reality thing that tracked my hand in three-dimensional space. Just none of it worked very well, honestly, and I scrapped the idea. So I finally got to a point where I was comfortable with it, and I was like, yep, we should totally do this. And it worked.
Nice, man.
I couldn't believe it. I was thrilled. We've both now had the opportunity to watch this thing beginning to end, and I mean, I am just blown away. I want to emphasize, you're going to play a clip, I know.
Yeah.
We walked up to this gear with nothing.
Really?
Nothing programmed, no fader up, nothing. He had a table full of stuff that he brought with him. I had my live rig. He had an analog synth, like a video synth that he had connected to his stuff, and we had output in the stream. You'll see that. And we just hit start, man. And it worked.
Because it sounds like you went over it with a fine-tooth comb, but
I'm as surprised as anybody. It worked. It was a lot of fun. Too,
let's let you be the judge. Here's the red side and Dummy Plug.
And Roland MEQ 230s synchronizing DIN sync against MIDI.
DIN.
That worked great. It was a lot of fun, and then that stuff kind of went away, and we sold most of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can do it all. Like we've talked about this on the show before, but the world, meaning the sort of the scape, what's the word I'm looking for? The creatorscape, if you will, of electronic music is so inverted from when I was like in high school. You didn't even know how like that dance beat was done. Like if I'm
Right.
listening to, Black Flag or something, okay, vocals, drums, guitar, bass, I
Yeah.
got it. Like I can conceptualize that. I'm putting on frontline assembly and I'm like, the music comes out of a computer? What? It's just you
Yeah.
didn't
I
even
mean,
know
it
where to
was
start, and now of course everybody's walking around with a fucking techno band in their pocket. It's
right.
so and then kind of nobody knows how to play music anymore. But maybe I don't know if I can back that up. But we got into this talking about sort of VSTs versus gear, but back to the actual performance. Like, what was it like making music with another human after being isolated for so long?
Wow. I mean, luckily it was a human that I think I was pretty well
Okay, right.
synced up with. I don't know, like, it's been so long since I played live at all, that it was going to be a return for me either way, because I don't generally gig as much as my intention was to start playing. When I built this whole thing, there's a whole video on the YouTube channel about how I built this and the
Oh,
things
wow. Okay.
that I considered when I built it, and a lot of it was considering how to hand off to a sound guy or a DJ or a different musician that I might have to share with. And what can I say, man? It was pretty natural. Luckily, it was
Love
him.
it.
I don't
Love
know if it
it.
would have been with somebody else, but yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool feeling because correct me if I'm wrong, you tend to be pretty sort of solo step in editing dudes, and for me at least, to just sort of get into Amalgamated Cadaver, available now at amalgamatedcadaver.bandcamp.com, was sort of a new world, and it was. I am really impressed with that video after you're done watching live show
I think
too.
I drove Christian crazy because I'm such like a planner and a tester. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to like just test everything and like try all this stuff. And he's like, no, 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 we're just gonna go. We're just gonna go. And he was right for sure. But it's funny you say like a step sequencing guy. Like I'm not a step sequencing guy at
Oh,
all.
really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I perform everything, and in a way that makes me unsuited to this kind of format. And
Why?
I had to learn. I had to go back and relearn what I used to do. Like but in my old techno band, we had 808s and 909s. It was all
Okay.
on an A-frame. I totally know how to do that stuff, but it's been a while, and it's just it was nice. It was
Oh,
fun.
cool, man. Yeah. Okay. Then I was wrong on that. I don't have the flow. I come at it with like a microscope and tweezers. But we'll check that out. Speaking of VSTs, like pie in the sky, get as silly as you want or not. What would your ideal VST do?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this a little bit. First of all, I think every VST, every plug-in instrument or plug-in effect should have a randomized feature. Like everyone, no matter what it is, because that has yielded a lot of neat stuff for me over the years.
Yeah, that's such a
Ones
good
that have
call.
it. Yeah, the ones that have it, and I just actually realized there's a plugin I use called Microtonic that's a drum synthesizer with a sequencer built into it, and I didn't realize because the feature was a little bit hidden. It has a randomizer for the drum sounds, of which there are 8. It has a randomizer for the sequence, and it has a randomizer that randomizes all of them at once.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Now, while I would never take what it spit out and make it the basis of my song, because that would be, kind of, that's what people used to say about guys like us, right?
Right.
But still, it can yield some interesting things because
Sure.
I don't know, I don't even know if I'm using it right, to be honest, right? I mean, I'm just doing what I do.
Well,
So
you're at your family's house and you bust out the Scrabble board. Everybody gets their 7 letters. What's the first thing they do? Put the letters in different orders. Are they
Sure.
cheating? No.
Nope.
Um,
So I thought about this. The other 2 things that I kind of came up with, I would love to see a plugin that was a hotkey generator. So you could take a QWERTY keyboard and assign key commands to all of its features by zone. Meaning, if I had a plugin that, maybe did support MIDI controllers or whatever, I think it would still be cool to, I ran into this with some of these drum program things. They really are designed for you to mouse over them. And the limitation of a mouse is that it can only do one thing at a time. It's essentially a cursor, right? I think it'd be really slick if you could tell that same plugin, hey, you got 10 buttons. I want to hit 4 of them all at the same time. And I want to use these keys on my keyboard to do it. So if there was a third-party plug-in device that lets you designate, you draw little squares around the things that you want to control, and then say, you're A, you're B, you're L, you're M, you're P.
Thinking outside the box. That is, man, write that one down. That's a corner office idea right there.
It would be using a basic HID principle. It's the same concept that the touchscreen idea would have done if it had been more elegant, but it would be doing it all in the box, so there's no external process you have to go through. And I don't see why you couldn't do that. It seems like it would work. So that was something that crossed my mind when I was going through this whole fiasco that ended up yielding nothing. And the other thing I was thinking about was the, digging in record crates is awesome, and I hope it never goes away. And I love the DJ Shadows of the world, and the DJ Premiers, and the guys who are really, really good at finding the killer loops and the great hits and the great shots and stuff. That's like, I can't say enough nice things about those people, but there are a lot of people who also really just need that movie sample, and just I can't tell you how much time I've wasted trying to find stupid little things like that. But with AI and machine learning coming to the point where it is, I think it's possible and reasonable that you'd have a plugin where you just say, find me the part in the Road Warrior where the repair guy says, "Okay."
Dude, that is genius.
And have it go out and just grab it, because how hard is that? That's not very hard. It seems like we should be able to do that with the technology we own right now. And it's not going to replace crate digging.
Right.
But when you're trying to get that kind of canned thing that's just in your mind, and you're like, man, I know I can find it, but I got to find that video, I got to find that DVD, I got to load it, I got to patch it into my equipment, I got to sit there going like this for 20 minutes trying to get, like, all that crap could theoretically go away, I think, if you had a plugin that just sort of did that for you. I don't think that's cheating, because you could go through the process and do it, but it just sucks, and it would be harder, and it wouldn't sound as good. So why bother? It's all online anyway,
That is a grand slam of an answer. Goodness gracious.
Well, you can take it a step further, too. I drove myself almost crazy trying to find... I wanted a sample of a girl singing a single note in a parking garage. I was envisioning what that would sound like, and I really wanted that for a bed I was creating in one of my recent songs. And I sat there on YouTube. You just have to search it using words, which means you're going to get a zillion things that aren't what you're looking for, right? And it's going to be like stupid things and things that make you angry and like things that ruin the process. And if I had just had the ability to say, girl, parking garage, singing single note, and have this plugin go out and find something that meets those criteria, I think it would have found me something better than I found on my own using words.
Interesting.
So, I don't know.
Well, those are fantastically stellar, pardon the pun, ideas. I want to sort of whip back to one track I said I wanted to play.
Sure.
This is, in sort of an interesting approach to music release, this is a new song on an old album. Is that accurate? Pretty much. All right, sweet.
Yeah, I take so long that like my albums can last until I feel like they're done.
It's iterative. No, it's cool. Here's something dope.
Gather kids reported that your kick drums are distorted and your samples are imported. We don't need your fake ass tracks. Up that tempo. Up that tempo. Up that tempo.
I have the beat and shouting.
Up that tempo. Up that tempo. Up that tempo. Up that tempo. Speak our kids, come on and get mental.
Okay, there we are. Did a little trip back to Parasitic for a second, but that was hardcore. The song title's longer than that. New song, old album. Check it out. Available now on vinyl, CD, digitalis, whatever you want, man. We got you. We got you. The conspiracy covers all bases. We'll go full Barbara Walters. What kind of animal is Dummy Plug Conspiracy?
You never disappoint with these questions. You know, I love these. Gives me something to think about when I'm trimming my shrubs. I thought a lot, and I'll tell you what I came up with first, and then I'll backtrack. I think the American beaver.
Okay.
Is probably good. And what I was thinking about is a long, long time ago in the 70s when the term industrial music was coined, which I usually credited to Chris Carter from Throbbing Gristle, was the first one to ever use that term. Mm-hmm. They weren't really talking about the sonic components of the music. They weren't saying, you know, this is industrial music because it kind of sounds like what you'd hear coming out of a factory with, you know, the rhythmic chunking and clunking and clanging. That's not what they were talking about at all. They were not musicians, and their process to making art was to just work on art. Mm-hmm. If you work on art and work and work and work and work, and you're industrious, you will eventually have art sitting there.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
And at the point at which you think you've got art sitting there, that's when you say this is done. But the industrial process of getting to it, especially as a non-musician, where somebody might call it composing if they were a musician, they just looked at it as working. And that, I love that, first of all, just because it's sort of part of who I am.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But I looked at a beaver, right?
Yeah.
What is a beaver known for? A beaver is known for being busy and working, right? Mm-hmm. And building this thing that impedes the flow of everything around it. And when it's done, it's of no use to anyone but the beaver.
That's, oh my God. Oh.
In fact, I coined a phrase. Maybe I'm not the first one to ever say this, but I'm going to copyright this just in case.
Let's do it.
Ain't nobody need a beaver dam except the damn beaver.
I got it. I got Space Coast chills. That is the bumper sticker.
Right? Process in that I work really, really hard and impede the flow of my household and my parenting and my marriage and my job and all of these things going on around me, and I block all of that with this massive thing that I build that benefits nobody but me.
Well, that's a pretty hilarious answer. I have to say, well done. I had you at polar bear. Because you see them play with the ball, they're very playful. There's definitely a fun side, but they'll also pummel your face right off your shoulders. So there's a lot of range with the polar bear.
For sure.
Your answer with the beaver is top notch, and I didn't know that this genre to which I've dedicated my life comes from industriousness and not the sounds of a factory. And I am over the moon now because if you're down.
I read an interview with Chris Carter in Tape Op magazine several months ago where he talked about that. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because they weren't emulating a thing, right?
Right.
That's not really what they were doing, so it makes sense.
And just non-musicians. I mean, I wasn't in band or whatever in high school. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's become this huge part of my life. So, industrial is such a great word for it. Sorry, geeking out on industrial music, but that's sort of the conceit of the show. Let's do a lap around this. What could you tell our audience or tips might you be able to impart onto dreadlock maintenance? I mean, it's magnificent. Like you must have been working on that for a long time.
It's funny. I get a lot of comments. I lived in New York a long time, and nobody ever said anything to me. Of course, you move down here to the South, and everybody wants to ask you questions. And when we were in Japan, there was a lot of they're way too polite to say anything there, but there was a lot of like sneaky little cell phone pictures behind me. And then you get to China, and there's pointing and
Oh,
yelling.
wow.
Like, oh, you know, like following you around and stuff. So I guess it's my cross to bear. I mean, I wanted my hair like this since I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
You know, I saw it in National Geographic when I was 3 years old, and I was like, yup.
Nice.
And then it was, years, of course, before I was able
Mm-hmm.
to have any part of my appearance the way I wanted it. But I'll tell you a funny story, because
Okay.
dreadlock maintenance can be kind of as much or as little as you want. I do almost nothing, but there's a misconception. You may find this interesting. The whole lice thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a little gross, but if you've got kids, somebody's eventually going to get lice.
Okay.
It's part of having kids. There's no way around it. I was traveling with some coworkers up in Atlanta, and we'd been in the same car for like 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
And I get a call from my wife telling me, "Hey, the kids have lice. I have lice. We've got lice." Not a big deal. It's very easy to deal with it. You just go and you do it. But it's not just the shampoo stuff. They actually have to comb out the eggs. I know it's disgusting, but that's part of the process. And you actually get a lady to do it for you, a lice lady.
Okay.
So they call me and they're like, "It's very likely you have lice too." Okay, I'm in this car with my coworkers, right? So I hang up. I'm like, okay. Full disclosure, it's very possible I have lice. And they're like, "Oh." So we stop at a CVS Minute Clinic and get the rent a doctor they have there. She checks them both out. They don't have lice. She checks me out. She sees something in my hair she thinks might be eggs. I'm like, "Are you sure? Because there is stuff in my hair." That's kind of how dreadlocks work. There's, the stuff from your scalp is what makes them work. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I see eggs. I'm pretty sure you've got lice." I'm like, "Shit." So I take the shampoo and I do the shampoo thing and I basically just stay away from these people. I was flying home the next day anyway. So my family in the intervening time has gone to the lice lady, and the lice lady's taking care of everything and she's great. My wife says, "My husband still has to come see you." She's like, "Okay, well, let me call him and schedule it." So I get the lice lady on the phone and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm kind of worried because how are you going to get rid of them? I have dreadlocks. You can't get a comb through my hair. So how are you going to do it?" And she's like, "Oh." She's like, "You got dreadlocks?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you white or black?" I'm like, "I'm white." She's like, "Do you use any product in them?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "No oils or anything?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Oh, you don't have lice." I was like, "How can you be so sure, lice lady?" She's like, "Because natural dreadlocks that use the natural oils of the scalp in order to lock provide too much slipperiness for lice eggs to attach to the trunk of the hair." She says it is virtually impossible for a person with natural dreadlocks to have lice.
Okay. There you go.
I was like, bullshit. No way. I'm like, "You got to prove this to me." So I fly home Friday night. I go see her on Saturday morning. She puts me under her magnifying glass with her eye, her lights on the side of her head. She goes, "Bip, bip, bip, bip. No, you don't have lice. Get out of here."
Wow.
Is it crazy?
I can honestly say I didn't think I'd be learning about the preventative aspects of dreadlocks today. But we learned so much, not the least of which is natural dreadlocks prevent lice.